Kong health authorities have activated their most serious response level.
The coronavirus has hit the UK.
More than 118,000 cases across 114 countries.
Today, the center is empty.
We had to adapt and adjust for member Jamaats' needs.
Virtual platforms and technology have enabled us.
There was the economic stream, there was a supply stream.
ખાવાનું આપશે તમે કદાચ તમારે રેન્ટ ન ભરી શકતા હો.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المأسومين المظلومين. My dear brothers and sisters from across the globe, Salamun alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, and welcome to our second live show in our Global Family Campaign series as we lead up to the incredible month of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Shahr Ramadan. And I pray that you are all readying up to welcome this spiritual month where we continue and inshallah accelerate our journey towards our Creator. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, a brief reminder as to what this our global family campaign is all about. Fundamentally, we as a community need to realize that we have family members right the way from North America to Europe, East Africa, India, Pakistan, Australia, and most certainly even beyond. And each of these family members of ours, probably second, third cousins, not very far, but relatives, have gone through varying challenges when it comes with regards to COVID. Last week, we learned from North America some of the challenges that they faced. And what I'm very interested to see about today's show is the sharp contrast between North America and inshallah today with India. And we're joined by our brothers from India Federation and also our brothers and sisters watching live with us as well. The goal is to connect us together, for us to realize that this family exists and for us to do something about it. That to engage financially with a mindset of support, love, and through understanding to know what they are really going through day to day. And as the globe, from many different parts of the globe, are emerging from the pandemic in different ways at different accelerations, India in the most recent days has gone into, in some areas, yet another lockdown. Vaccines are present, but tricky to get a hold of. Poverty is rife and deaths are still present. So the stark contrast to last week, I think, will be very interesting for you to learn about, and inshallah, we invite you to engage with us as a result of that. On a personal level, before I introduce our guest today, one thing that I will reflect on is an admission that perhaps is not just on my side, but maybe even my brothers and sisters from the likes of Europe and maybe even North America. Did we really know, or did I really know just how big the community that we have is in India? The only kind of recollection I personally have is when a dear teacher of mine from the madrasa, Mohsen Uncle Dharamsi, left for India, maybe about 10 years ago or so. And I was so confused thinking, why are you going back to India? I thought everyone left India, they're now in East Africa, now they've gone to North America, or they've come to Europe. And I was genuinely shocked. And in preparing for the show, I've been even more pleasantly shocked to learn about how many of our brothers and sisters actually reside in India. So for those of you not from the area, I really pray that you're able to get a grasping for this as well, because it really wakes us up to a reality that we need to help more so. In terms of our guests, I'm truly honored to introduce them one by one. Firstly, I introduce Sheikh Muhammad Raza Dodia, who I've had the pleasure of getting to know very briefly over the past few days. Sheikh Al-Aziz, Salamun alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for having me, and I pray that inshallah the show and the others are successful inshallah in getting the community together.
Ilahi Ameen. Thank you so much for joining us. For those who do not know, Sheikh is a Mumbai born resident and now lives in the holy city of Qom and is continuing his studies out there after many years. And may Allah continue that journey for him. Sheikh, I begin with this question to you, and I'll ask each of the guests one by one this. What 3 words would the average Indian use to describe how they feel with regards to COVID right now?
Well, for me, at least being from India, the first word that comes to mind is test, divine test. As Allah said that humans are going to be tested through health, wealth, and life. And this pandemic, in a way, a perfect manifestation of that verse. The second, I would say patience, because for now we have no other option than being patient. And as the Prophet said as well, do not multiply your worries and your calamities through impatience. So being patient and at the same time striving for having a positive change, trying to overcome this pandemic, this situation. And the third one is eye-opener, because time is ticking. We always thought that, after reaching a particular age, normally we start to prepare for death. But this pandemic has shown us that young, old, adult, child, it doesn't make a difference. It's coming for everybody. And we should prepare that just in case tomorrow it's our turn, we won't be embarrassed in front of our Creator.
SubhanAllah. I love that hadith that you shared about patience in the time of calamity. I think that's super powerful and something that very much resonates. Ahsantum Shaykh, and we'll come back to you a bit later in the show. We now welcome Uncle Ali Idbai Shraf, who is the India Federation Secretary General, based also in Mumbai. My dear, Assalamu alaikum to you.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sorry.
And I begin with the same question to you. What 3 words would you use that the average Indian would use to describe how they feel with regards to COVID right now, especially as you are living with your brothers and sisters there?
The first word I would say, Sayyidina robbed me of examination. That would have put it that way, and put it beautifully before me in a right way, that this is an examination from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, whereby in the Holy Quran also it is mentioned that humanity will be tested. The second word that I would put it as is unprecedented. Okay, that would be never heard of. Like, maybe 2019, if you tell somebody that it's going to be lockdown, or you're going to be locked in your houses for about 7 months, 8 months, or a year, or you would not be able to move out of your residences, you will not be able to go to the school. It would have been like nobody would have imagined such a situation and would have said, okay, what are you talking about? So that is one thing that I would put as an unprecedented situation. And this is a little bit out of the box, but what I see is I would put it as an opportunity as well. Because if you go to see, there is many opportunities that have opened up also, when it not only comes to businesses, but it comes to a lot of industries also, which is come a lot of service-oriented things also that we can look at. And during the show, inshallah, we will elaborate more on that if I've given an opportunity.
I mean, thank you, inshallah. And we will now bring in one thing that really woke me up as to how close this global community is and family is, was when I heard of a name that was almost the exact same as mine. And who knows, maybe we're the same person, just in different countries. But I now welcome Brother Sadiq Kamani, an anchor and public speaker, sounds a bit familiar, with an HR background. Brother Sadiq, salaam alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. I hope you're doing well, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, very well. Thank you for joining us. And again, maybe perhaps the sentiment of the Indians right now, how they are feeling with regards to COVID. What 3 words do you think that would come to mind?
Well, I believe, the 3 words that average Indian would be currently using is, the first one would be fear. And there are 2 types of fear that I feel, the Indians would have. One is fear of COVID, because they could lose their lives or they could lose their family ones. The other one, the fear of hunger, because if they do not work, the average Indian would particularly, if they don't work, if they don't have any source of income, particularly that would result in live with hunger. So I think that's one of the major challenge that I feel. The other thing is again about responsibilities, because we, as not just Indians, but everyone has a certain amount of responsibility towards our neighbors, towards our family, towards our relatives. And this COVID has given us enough amount of opportunity to to fulfill that responsibilities towards each other. The third one again is hope, because we all live with the hope that Almighty Subhanahu wa Ta'ala will definitely help us, and those days are not that far where we'll be getting back to a normal life. So it's again, even in Quran Majid and Shaykh can very well, define this. It says, I mean, with every difficulty there's an ease. So I believe that hope is something that we are sticking to it, and inshallah, and I feel, with complete faith in Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, I feel that day is not that far well we'll be getting back to a normal life. Thank you.
Inshallah, sooner rather than later. Thank you, Brother Sadiq. And finally, we're very honored to have a busy show today, and very glad to welcome World Federation Councillor based in Ahmedabad, Brother Ali Hassanain Dostani. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us. I'm very, again, and I think with Brother Sadiq and Ali Uncle based in Mumbai, and then yourself in Ahmedabad, I'd love to understand again what 3 words you think the locals are using there to describe the current situation and how they feel about it.
First of all, I'd like to use the word depression. People are so depressed here regarding COVID. Really, the situation is really bad. It's going worse now. The second word I'll use, stressed, because of the financial situation. People are really stressed. And the third is confusion. Confusion because people don't know when this thing will finish. Because as I said, things are going worse now. People are really confused. They never in their wildest dream they ever thought that this phase will come in their life. So that's it.
I think that those words, they're powerful. They really feel quite intense, and I can can appreciate it, but I don't think I truly appreciated just how intense that felt until I started reading some of these statistics about India. I know, for example, in the West, we've been seeing India as a high growth country and almost continent in its own right, potentially an economic powerhouse of tomorrow. And when you saw those trends, but then you've seen how COVID has really crippled the country in some ways, that shocked me. And I guess, Brother Sadiq, I'll come to you in terms of like the macro level of the cases, the deaths, vaccinations, any trends that you've seen, economic impact. Just give us a flavor on what's happened in the last year.
Sure. So I believe the current Indian, COVID statistics are that the total case that we have is around about 13.4 million cases, which, out of which 12.1 million, patients have been recovered, and the death percentage, or rather the death counts, would be 169,000 people have lost their life due to COVID. If I particularly talk about India, and I can name the states, the very first state that has a lot of COVID cases, that is Maharashtra, and I believe that the majority of the Indian Khoja Shia community also resides in Maharashtra as well. So it has around about 3.34 million cases, out of which 2.75 cases, patients have recovered, and 557,638 deaths that we can see. And just after Maharashtra, we have a state called Kerala. Kerala has around about 1.16 million cases. Just look at the difference between Maharashtra and Kerala. And then the recovered cases are 1.12 million, and the deaths are almost 4,767. So these are the basic COVID statistics for India. If I talk to you about trend about COVID, it usually has in March. It started in March 2020 with around about cases, and it reached the peak at the September 2020 with an average daily cases about 92,000 daily cases. Then it again came down, and then it's going up now. So now we have round about in April 2021, we have round about 84,000 cases that we have that we averagely get on a daily basis overall in India.
It's tough to hear those numbers, It's
Absolutely.
genuinely tough to hear those numbers, and that the trend is not looking great. And I guess that's probably the reason for the latest lockdown, most probably. Ali Uncle, I come towards you then in terms of, and again, for people like myself who don't really know the makeup of India per se, and especially where our community is and our family is, where are we based, and what has been the trends and the impact on our community specifically?
Okay, if I tell you, say about 2,470 families, and majority of the population of the Indian Khoja community resides in Maharashtra and Gujarat. If I just put these two together and put the rest of the data, that is like they would be about 92% or 95% in these two states, that is Maharashtra and Gujarat, and the rest of India would be around 5-7 or maybe maximum around 10% of the community. So that's how the numbers speak about. Now, when you talk about the impact of COVID, I mean, it has a great impact on the community, because as Brother Sadiq rightly said, that the working class, or the people who are possibly hand to mouth, or who are like the day to day, they are quite efficient enough to maintain their own selves and their own families. Now with this lockdown and the impact of 7 months, that they were just put behind their houses, and the pays were cut. There was even there are cases where people who are working in malls, or people who are working in retail industry or in hospitality industry, they were not paid for months together. So the impact has been really huge on our community.
Again, it's tough to hear, and I think we mentioned this on our call earlier in the week. I think maybe to each of you that in the West, we've been, or at least in the UK, we've been fortunate to have if you weren't able to work, that the government was giving a very decent compensation in terms of salary to keep you going. But there's just such a stark difference that we just don't appreciate whatsoever. What I'd like to do, dear viewers, is for those of you who are not familiar with India Federation, our community, our family that resides in India, we've prepared a short clip just to illustrate how it's broken down, where they reside, the kind of numbers that we're thinking of. And I just want you to reflect as you watch this. How many family members do you think you're related to that you can help actually reside in India? Inshallah, we'll have a quick look at this clip.
The Council of All Khoja Shia Ethnashi Jamaats, better known as the India Federation, was established in 2013. Later on, in January 2015, the India Federation became a regional federation under the World Federation. Thus, the Council of Gujarat, Kutch Federation, and Khoja Shia Ethnashi Mumbai Jamaat are now represented under this mega regional federation on the world stage. The federation consists of 58 Jamaats located in multiple places. 41 Jamaats are located in Gujarat. Both Vidarbha and Kutch Federation have 6 Jamaats each, and further Jamaats are located in Mumbai and other cities around India. The India Federation consists of more than 12,000 households, with Mumbai being the biggest Jamaat with 4,500 households, Gujarat around 6,000, and Varora being the smallest with only 28 households. Although not fully verified, there could be approximately around 50,000 Khoja Shia Ethnasharis residing in India at present. Most recent data that India Federation has carried out suggests that more than 1 in every 5 families are needy and stuck in a poverty cycle. The COVID pandemic and lockdown has had an even greater impact on these families, with difficulty of paying rents, and the little savings they had have been eroded.
Keeping in mind that statistic of around 50,000 of our family members based in India, I'm just going to share a couple of statistics before I ask Sheikh for a bit of insights around this point around poverty. For those of you who don't know, there is a survey that we are sharing as part of the Our Global Family campaign. It takes around 2-3 minutes to complete, and for every submission that we receive, there is a donor who is donating £2 on your behalf towards Shahr Ramadan relief. Within these questions, we're capturing some statistics around poverty, around access to education. And again, keep that 50,000 in mind, and I'll share these with you. 74% of Indians cited that 21% or more of their country are poor and suffer from economic distress. 74%. Compare that to, if we remove India from that sample size, to everyone else that filled out the survey, North America, East Africa, etc. 74% plays against 27%. So we're talking a 3 times impact, 3 times severity, where there are 50,000 of our family members in India. And this poverty cycle leads to hunger, getting food on the table. I've heard the phrase many times when preparing the show with you all, that it's been as tricky as getting the basic food on the table for the entire family. Sheikh, as we recite Allahumma ashba' kulla ja'i, oh Allah, satisfy or satiate every hungry person. When I hear statistics like this, genuinely, what should I be thinking when I read this line of dua in Shahr Ramadan?
Well, in Surah Al-Ra'd, verse number 11, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Since poverty is an issue of our community, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned the solution to it as well. Allah says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change the situation of a community unless the community members themselves strive for a change. So the answer is pretty clear. Every month of Ramadan, at least, after every prayers, we recite the dua which you mentioned, Allahumma ashba kulla ja'i, for example, Allahumma aghni kulla faqir. So there are two approaches that we have over here. The first approach is that we recite the dua and we're asking Allah, right? Oh Allah, feed the poor. So now it's the responsibility of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to feed the poor. Whereas, as I mentioned in the ayah, when we recite these du'as, it's in fact Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving us a roadmap. What do I mean? When we recite the dua, the essence of dua is to gain proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Apart from the needs that we mentioned in the dua, those are secondary. Important, yet secondary. The essence of dua is to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in these dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us a roadmap that when you say, Allahumma ashba kulla ja'i, oh Allah, feed the hungry people, Allah is telling me, look, if you want to gain that essence of dua, that proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you need to yourself go and feed the poor. If you don't do that, we might pray, but that connection would be very limited. And the difference in society or the community that we want to achieve, we'll never be able to achieve it unless we work and strive ourselves. Prayer is important, but so is the determination and the sincerity of our people in the community.
And I think just to expand on that a touch, just briefly, if I could, with you, we know when we looked at Amir al-Mu'mineen, alayhi salam, we have someone who, as we all know, giving food at night without people knowing it to the aitam, to the orphans, yet spiritually so strong. I guess to just further on your point, Sheikh, is the primary factor I pray first and then I go deliver the aid, or do I deliver the aid first and pray second?
We pray first. We have to have the intention that this delivery of good, whatever we are doing, it has to be for the sake of Allah and for the goal to achieve proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If that goal is not there, then the sawab won't be there either. If you don't have that goal to get the proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to get the closeness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you won't get that reward. Yes, you might feed the hungry, you might get the sawab. For example, we have many sawabs mentioned to feed the poor. You might get those sawabs, but the essence of dua, which is proximity, you might not gain that. So intention for Allah is as necessary as feeding the poor and action.
Ahsantum. Thank you for that. Brother Sadiq, I'm going to come to you, right? Because we've spoken a lot about statistics. We've kind of heard those kind of stories. I'd just like maybe the viewers to benefit from a hands-on story, right? What has actually happened to maybe a community member that we are aware of, so that we can really feel that these aren't just statistics of poverty, there are real challenges being faced. Is there something maybe you could share with us, perhaps an anecdote or a story?
Absolutely, Sadiq, I'll definitely share that. So there was again an anecdote by brother Hadi. Okay, so he said that during the last few months of lockdown, after resisting several months of lockdown where savings completely dried up and utilized, I didn't even had money to buy daily essentials. And when I say daily essentials, it simply means that the food basket or the ration act, that usually consists. Uh, to feed my family. Howsoever, people in Mumbai and few of my friends noticed it, and they knew that I wouldn't ask from my mouth, as I never did for any help. Immediately, food basket was arranged by a brother and Faith, and that day, not only I was emotional, but I found something as a gift from Almighty Subhanahu wa Taala. The situations have still not improvised much, and now with the new phase of COVID-19 spike in volumes and spike in cases, it feels more challenging. I fear to face such situation like the past. So you see
Wow.
the intensive the situation that the brothers are facing, and not only just with maybe one or anecdotes, but there are several other cases, because we have around about 25% of our Indian Khoja community who's landed into below poverty line. If I talk to you just about prior COVID, we had around about those 1,500 households. They were actually belonging to below poverty line, but now we have around about 2,800 to 2,900. And absolutely, Ali Bashroff can really correct me if I'm wrong. We have around about 30% of the population who are landing currently in below poverty line and need serious attention.
Ali Hasnain, when you hear that, and I connect that to your first words at the beginning of the show where you said fear, I think was one of the words. Is this part of the fear that you kind of feel people are facing?
Yeah, people are very much people are very much fear actually. They don't know what to do exactly. The thing is going on, uh, and sometimes they even feel what the situation in, like, for example, if I say in Mumbai there's a lockdown right now, but people seriously don't want lockdown. Brother Ali, please correct me if I'm wrong. People don't want lockdown. They say we want to work for our family. If we'll die from corona, but we don't want to die from hunger. This is what they are saying. Yeah, this is what the situation is so bad. They don't want to die of hunger. They want to die of COVID. They are not. The situation is really bad going these days.
Ali Uncle, could you expand on that a little bit as well?
If I'm allowed to just expand on this, let's look at from the other broad perspective. Okay, I will just put it the other way around for the viewers and for you all to understand why this has led to such a situation. Now, if there are 100 families in Mumbai, for an example, or in India, okay, let's put it that way: that how many are able to sustain themselves if there is a lockdown of a year? So now, if you try to simplify this from this angle, okay, you would easily get an answer maybe about 10%, 12%, 15% to be on the higher side. So now what you're looking at is 85% or 88% of the community who is vulnerable to this COVID impact. Now, this COVID impact has been a direct impact and an indirect impact, both on the community. Okay, the direct impact has been people losing jobs, people having cuts in their incomes, people having challenges for daily living. Indirect impact is also there, which is like people are facing a lot of challenges on medical this thing, where if there is a COVID case in the house, or if there is some other abnormality in the house, they have an indirect impact on this. Again, if there is an education challenge, so now that is also, which opens a very wide scope of discussion over here, that people, majority, if you see three places where people have been impacted. One is the poverty, that is the food grains and their basic need, bread and butter. Second is the medical needs, okay, which is actually huge, actually huge. If there is a simple one case of COVID in the house, okay, in the first lockdown of the 7 or 8 months, it was really a bombshell which was cost at the hospitals for the treatments as well. And then the third impact is the education. So I think if you look at the broader aspect, it is about 80-85% of the community who is unable to sustain the COVID impact.
Wow. So Sadek, I come to you, I guess, from a perspective of what's been done. I think we now have a good understanding. It's severe, it's intense, it's our family going through it. What's been done as kind of an initial response?
Well, I believe there were three steps that were taken in order to look after the current situation, because the gravity of the situation is so intense. So definitely there was certain amount of remedies which needs to be in place, and as a result, what we did, as we upgraded the needy family list in terms to have a complete a list of families who are in need, and we also tried to added their bank account details, and there are several other things. So if we need to deliver them aid, they don't really need to visit us in our premises businesses under the COVID situation. So we can deliver them either at their household, or maybe, if there are certain financial aids, we can, just transfer them to their bank account. And the other things were like, basic financial aids or basic food basket helps were provided to, families of around 2,800 to 3,000 families in India. So these were, certain things that were given to the people who are actually in need right now. And in the near future, we are also in plans to generate employment or support small scale businesses when deemed feasible and possible, in looking at the financial prospect and the financial business aspect. Because if we see, if a family who can literally run their businesses around 50,000 Indian national rupees, and if we can support them with that particular amount, they can definitely live up to their own expectation, or at least they can sufficient as they can suffice their own family. So if we can support to these extent of to these much of an amounts, I think more or less there will be quite a lot of families who will be again out of below poverty line. So that's the future prospect, and that's what we're planning to do.
I think this point on helping them become self-sufficient and be able to sustain themselves through the risk of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is powerful, right? That is a way to step out of poverty. But when I connect that to what is required to help them get there, education is obviously a very, very critical part, right? And we asked these questions in the survey. So we asked two questions. One was about the access to the ease of access to primary level education. So you can get your entry level, 5 years old to 10 years old, for example. And then also the access to higher education, i.e. university level education, so kind of 18 plus. And again, I just want to share these stats with you. And Sheikh, I'll come to you soon after to kind of get your raw reaction to this. In the survey, 54% of Indians cited that they had poor access to primary education. Now, that as an initial statistic doesn't, I mean, it sounds horrific, but given the backdrop that you've already shared, it's kind of like, okay, that's believable. What I found frightening, 54% of Indians said access was difficult, compared to, if you remove India from the equation, 6%. So we're talking a 9 times difference now in terms of the severity that our family in India faces. And with regards to university level education, 73% of Indians said they had poor access to university level education. Remove India from the equation, 29%. So over double again. Sheikh, given someone that's, alhamdulillah, and may Allah continue in your road towards education, both, in the faith and in life, when you hear statistics like that, again, coming back to the point on dua, how much is dua is going to get us somewhere versus we need to start building infrastructure for our family to thrive and actually get out of poverty through education?
Like, as I mentioned, that dua is just one step of a long ladder that we need to climb in order to achieve the level that we desire. So dua is necessary, but with dua we need actions, and actions in a planned manner. Yes, we have people who are doing some charity, helping people here and there. There are people doing it, but at a community level, a more combined effort in order to drive away poverty from ourselves, from our community, that was required, an effort at the community level. And of course, at the community level, we say we need people of the community to chip in and play their part in helping, providing. If they have excess, they need to provide. And there are many hadiths. If you look at the treatise of rights of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, the rights that the believer have upon the other believers, it's fascinating that there are so many rights that our brothers and sisters have upon us, and we are very neglectful with regards to them. And on the day of judgment, we will be asked about it. Simple as that. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala many a times gives sustenance to me, for example, but that's not meant for me. It's meant for another person. I was just a medium. And if I happen to use it by myself without taking into consideration my neighborly brother or sister, then I will be answerable. And that punishment is going to be very tough, because you've deprived a person from attaining higher levels in this world.
Very interesting. Ali Uncle, coming back towards you, what have you seen from the ground level with regards to education? Do those, firstly, what's your reaction to those statistics that I shared?
Absolutely, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, but I will just compliment Sheikh to have put it beautifully on the forum by putting it in these words as combined effort at community level. Now, Shadna, thank you very much to have put this together. This is one statement which I think is quite a strong statement, which we need to follow in future as well. Coming back to your question, Brother Sadiq, see, I myself took up this survey, and I'm being very authentic in saying this. I marked it as saying that primary education is easily available. Okay, but when I'm being put these figures in front of me by you, I'm also a bit shocked. And after reflecting upon it, what I feel is that yes, still today, as a community representative, also I am been unable to essence what the community ground level reality is. And thank you very much to have put this survey together and shared these numbers with us. And see, basic education, like, if I just give you some classical cases that are there in front of us right now. For the last a year or so, we've been seeing that, World Federation has really put together a huge support for the Indian community. And especially in last about 2 months or so, we've had a very generous COVID relief budget that was put forward to India Federation, part of which we also used for the education. And if you allow me with time, I would like to put 1 or 2 cases to forward to our viewers, so that they understand the sort of where you give a support and it also turns out to be an opportunity. So see, that is what we are actually looking at. We are not only looking at giving a support, but we are looking at some people getting more educated, or some people getting more self-sufficient by themselves, so that we don't have to always give them a glass of water, and we always we have a tap installed in their houses. So if you just allow me for another maybe 30 seconds or so, I can give you one of the examples which will be very interesting for you all to know. This is one brother Muhammad, who is about 29 years old. Obviously the name is not the true one, okay, to protect his identity. He lives with his widow mother and 2 sisters. Now, he was working as a graphic designer in a press, and he was making barely maybe around $300 a month. Now, with this lockdown, what happened is he lost his job. Now, that's when he felt, as I rightly said in the first 3 words that you said, as an opportunity. So that's where he understood, okay, now this is an opportunity for me to further educate myself. And then he took up this course, which was called as he took a 3-year course, okay, and which was costing say about 68,440 rupees, which was funded by World Federation. And now with this course, Alhamdulillah, he doesn't have to go back to take that 12,000 rupees job, and he is self-sufficient enough to then support his family in a much better way. So this is also opened up an opportunity for others to come up and progress in life.
It's beautiful. That's really, to hear something like that, I think to Sheikh's point, and matching that with the story of it, to say this is where the community comes together to enable that, that's huge. And I guess, Ali Hasnain, to you, do you feel when you hear or stories like this, and people in the area that you live in and your friends and family, when they hear stories like this where the community has come together, the family has come together and said, hey, we are going to support you with this opportunity so you can get on your own 2 feet, does that get rid of that fear, or do you think the fear still stays in the individual's head over time? I think you're on mute, sorry.
Sorry. I have one anecdote to share, if you permit me. Yeah?
Please.
Yeah. This is from Brother Akbar, residing from Gujarat. He says that I am a school bus driver by profession. Before pandemic, my life with my family was going very smooth. But ever since the lockdown was imposed during the first phase of COVID, my life got totally changed. All schools were closed, and as a result, I was badly hit financially. Then finally, I had to change my profession to a street vendor selling vegetables on a small scale basis. Recently, during the second phase of COVID, which is more deadly, I faced some problems with my health in terms of severe fever and cold. I consulted the doctor and he doubted me to be COVID positive as per my symptoms, and was advised to get COVID test done. I was shattered to listen to him because I had no such funds to spend on tests and medicines. I was so disturbed and finally decided not to get the test done due to lack of funds, as I could not even afford a single test. My health condition was deteriorating day by day, but I was helpless. Then suddenly I got some good news that Jamaat had announced COVID relief fund sponsored by World Federation. The amount, instead of spending on my daily needs, I spent that amount on COVID tests and I was diagnosed positive. After that, I approached few local donors for help to get my treatment done. That moment was very embarrassing for me because I begged to someone for help for the first time in my life. Alhamdulillah, I am doing much better health-wise, and I thank the donors of World Federation as well as the local donor who helped me in my toughest days.
Wow. There was one part there, Ali Hasnain, that really made me reflect, and I think, Brother Sadiq, I'll come to you to ask your opinion on this. From the anecdote, it said that there was a requirement to pay for COVID tests. Now, I'm here in London, whereby there's just been a link sent round by the government saying you can now order next day delivery of, I think, 7 COVID tests that give you a result in 20 minutes, so you can start interacting with people with more confidence, free of charge. And it's been free. COVID tests have been free for the last year. Brother Sadiq, when you hear that this disparity of, someone needing to give up their day's wages to pay for a test versus free tests, how does that make you feel?
I think the situation has made or landed us into it in a bit of maybe we are in a bit of situation where looking at the holistic approach of the Indian population that we have. So at times when the COVID was this COVID was just introduced, people were confused of what they need to do, and at the same point of time they were more than the fear of getting positive, they were again in fear of taking those tests, because one, about financial constraint, that if would they be able to manage to buy that test and can get that test done. The second thing, what if I get positive, how will I able to accommodate the expenses of the medical, maybe admitting to hospital, or what about my family, and if someone, maybe 1 or 2 people here and there, the buildings will get sealed and all that stuff. And also, if I can just maybe directly answer to your question about the COVID test free and your and maybe in UK and charges in India, I think that's a reality, because looking at the population of India, I feel this is where we are, and this is what our current situation is. So it really feels that one of our brother is getting something for free while we have to literally pay for it. So I mean, this is what it is, and it's the current bitter situation that we are in.
Still makes me feel uneasy. I it's it's very excuse me, it's very tough to hear it so raw and to feel in this position. I guess let's just take a moment, inshallah. We have a clip prepared that illustrates what has happened, I guess, in this response to COVID, a bit hands-on. Again, it'll probably give a bit of a flavor of the picture of the different situations and the different solutions that were needed region to region, and of course in this case with India. So inshallah we'll have a quick look at this just now.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has announced a total nationwide lockdown.
As soon as COVID-19 started in India in the first half of 2020, the India Federation, the Jamaats, local charitable trusts, and the general public rose to the occasion and started to assist those affected in various ways. Initially, provisions for 1 month were distributed to the needy to see them through for the very near term. As time passed, more and more people became insolvent. Our community in India has a large percentage of rickshaw drivers, owners of small stores, and daily wage earners. Many of these people had no means of providing food for their families.
And it was like many people have lost their jobs, many people have they are jobless, and you can say this time was very difficult for all us to survive. Many people were unable to meet their needs such as bread and butter also. They were suffering for that.
With the pandemic lasting and ongoing in waves, more and more people have joined to the list of the needy. They now need cash for rent of homes, stores, rickshaws, wheelbarrows, for example, to purchase basic food like milk, fresh fruits and vegetables, and so on. They also need to pay for installments to banks and finance houses. Thus, the recent COVID-19 Fund initiative, which was dispersed, as well as the ongoing Mahe Ramadan relief, which the World Federation is running currently, is a critical vehicle to link donors to the most needy on the ground in India.
Dear viewers, I think you are now getting a holistic picture, as much as we can portray over this kind of means and without being in the country ourselves, as to how tricky the situation is for our family in India. And I want to use the word family rather than community. We can see we're not far away in terms of our second names from, and if not the same second names being represented there. So our family in India. And clearly money is a challenge. But also I think there is a big angle towards emotional support, really telling those wherever they are in India, hey, my name is Hassan, my name is Jawad, my name is Fatima, my name is Zainab, I live in London, I live in Orlando, I live in Dar es Salaam, I live in Australia, I live in Sydney, wherever. I have heard the sort of things you are going through, and I just want you to know that I'm here and I'm praying for you, and I recognize that, and I'm trying to do the best that I can in order to help you, as per the guidance of our perfect faith. And we would like to encourage this behavior and this interaction from you, our dear viewers. So if you would like to submit a letter of love, of support, a hand forward, an extended hand, in order to say, I'm here for you, please do so by writing in an email to our global family at world-federation.org. You can see the email address going down the bottom. And not only will that, inshallah, give you some level of satisfaction that someone has received this and perhaps has had an extra boost of morale given the difficult situation that they're in, but also we have a donor that will donate £5 on your behalf by simply submitting this email, which will take you no more than 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 120 seconds to put your thoughts down. £5 will be donated on your behalf to Shahr Ramadan relief, of which some of the funds are being dispersed into these areas. So it's a very simple thing to do. Share it with your friends and family. There's no limit. So please do get involved and try and target it towards someone who maybe has lost a loved one, perhaps someone who is lonely due to the loss, or perhaps to someone who's going through this dire state of poverty. Alianka, I want to kind of begin our conclusion in the next 10 minutes. And I'm going to ask a question that I don't think I prepared any of you for. And I said I would do this on some occasion. And it's going to be a tough one, but I would really appreciate if you guys can give me a very raw response. Given what you've seen in the last, 5-10 years of alhamdulillah, the work that you've been doing, and inshallah, you're granted more tawfiq and sincerity in the work that you do, inshallah. Do you think those in the global family who are, we could say, maybe financially better off, do you think we are doing enough for our family in India?
Okay, Brother Sadiq, thank you very much to have put this statistics and this show together very nicely. And I feel that, we've got a good response. See, I'll just take you a little bit back to the history, which will take another 30 seconds. Look at the history of the Khojas. FED, maybe more than 40 years it is into existence. NASIMCO, maybe 40 years into existence. World Federation, maybe 40 years into existence. India Federation, maybe 4 years into existence. Okay, so now the difference is here. You have to have one institute, which is an umbrella institute, where everybody else works together under that to achieve the maximum goal, as Saidna also rightly suggested us, that, that combined effort at the community level. Okay, so putting all this together, okay, the global family's impact. See, the global family has been very, 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 very generous towards India. Let me be very honest about this. Okay, but the effort that they were putting was, going towards the larger Shia community, no doubt about it. The Shia community looks at this thing, a greater support, not only from the Indian Khoja community, but from the Khoja community of the whole world. And we are very sympathetic towards that, and we feel it's our duty towards our entire global community when it comes to Shia and the others as well. Having said that, the problem of Khojas are now in these last 4 years is already diagnosed, that what needs to be done. You have seen that how well equipped Sadiq is around with the data. You've seen how well Brother Ali Hassan is equipped with the data. So now we actually have diagnosed and we know, okay, what are the areas of concern, what are the areas that need to be targeted, and what are the areas of focus which we need, and with that we will get the growth, inshallah. Okay, so I urge to the global family, keep that sympathetic view towards India and Pakistan. These are the two places where, and Africa also adds to this now. Okay, with this COVID impact and all, what I see and what I hear from our brothers there, that little bit more sympathetic, maybe a 5-year plan or a 10 years plan. And inshallah, I foresee in next 10 years, if we have a systematic planning with India Federation, definitely results will be delivered. Okay, and the global family will want to see, will get to see what they want to see, and they have been doing a lot. And we'll just sympathetically request them to keep their faith and just to keep doing the good work for the global family, inshallah.
Brother Sadiq, I'll come to you. Someone, if I can say a youth of the community. Again, I never know when the term youth stops being used. So inshallah, may it long continue, because it means we look young. From your perspective, amongst the youth of India, and I don't just talk about Mumbai, I talk about more broadly, is there a confidence that the community will emerge from this challenging cycle of poverty that we've been discussing?
Yes, completely. I believe, yeah, you are definitely right. We have that because of the optimistic lenses that we have. And as a youth of the community, we always feel that the youths are more optimistic, and being also they are more realistic. So the realistic fact is, like, currently it is difficult, but in the near future, yes, we have a lot of hopes, because our hopes lies in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we feel that our community will definitely emerge from this situation, and we would be again, coming back to a normal life, and maybe the pace that we were excelling prior COVID, I think we will be able to grab that pace again, and we can, run as fast as possible. And this is what, as a youth of the community, I confidently feel about it.
And to extend on that, obviously a way out of this situation is the vaccine rollout, and many countries are doing very differently in terms of their performance in that. Could you just maybe give us an oversight as to an overview, sorry, as to how India is doing from a vaccine perspective?
I think, thank you so much for this, call out. This is something which is really important topic, and let me also give you a bit of background before I, just specifically talk about vaccine in the Indian Khoja share community. Okay, so the vaccine was launched on 16th of January 2021, which was first, just started for the frontline workers and the healthcare workers, and then the eligibility criteria was, moved up by the government for only 60 years and above. Later, then the government realized, okay, we also can accommodate from, age 45 and above. The COVID vaccine and the, COVID shield and the Covaxin, also started to given by from the age 45 to and above. Then India vaccine is steadily again now it's expanding again with its own challenges, own set of challenges. Positive is that what we see in India is particularly more women's are taking vaccine than men's. So this is something that, maybe a kind of a positivity, that women's are, particularly taking more vaccines than men's. Again, it's a lesson for a men that we also need to step up, and we also need to take our vaccines. And it is high likely that government of India, and and the all the state governments come together, and also, come down to the age where even, about 25 years of age, or maybe about 30 years of an age, can also, bring get themselves vaccinated. The point of the hard reality is, what I feel as a community member or as a youth of the community, our community members are still reluctant to take vaccines. I don't know what is the challenge, because we have like nominal amount of, surcharges, or maybe at least free, that we can have vaccines in government hospital. But still we feel, or rather I've seen, that the community members, the Indian Khoja Share community members, are reluctant to taking vaccinations. So on this forum, having this opportunity, I simply urge all the members of, Indian Khoja Share community to please move ahead, step up, go get yourself vaccinated, because that's the amount and that's the thing that we always need to focus, and we need to prioritize. Because if we can, just save ourselves, we're not just saving ourselves, but we are also saving our family. Example, if a head of the family is getting vaccinated, he's also saving his entire family as well, right? So, I simply urge from this platform to please, to all the Indian Khoja Share community, and in fact all the our global family across the globe, to go get themselves vaccinated.
Sheikhna, on that point, from a Shara'i perspective, what is the guidance that's currently being given in terms of the necessity or not of getting vaccinated?
Was that for me? Sorry.
Yes, please, Sheikhna. From a Shari perspective,
Yes.
in
So,
terms of the vaccination and it's whether it's
well,
required or
apparently,
not.
Al-Sistani has a whole guidelines on the website, and the gist of it is that if it's necessary, you have to take it, and that's the conclusion of the guidelines. That if you think it's necessary, you have to take it. If the uqala and all the rational people around you are saying that no, this vaccine is good, it prevents the COVID, then you have to take it. But the if is a big condition over there. If you have that itminan, then yeah.
Interesting. Unfortunately, we lost Brother Ali Hasni, maybe due to connection. I was going to come to him from his perspective as well on this account with regards to the vaccine rollout. I guess to maybe come into the conclusion as well here, Ali Uncle, if I come to you, as we now approach Shahr Ramadan, we approach, very soon after the days of celebration of Ghadir and Mubahila, and then we head into Ashra Muharram yet again. Are the centers now opening up? What's the rollout looking like in the short term?
See, at this point of time, if I talk about Maharashtra and I talk about Gujarat, so the current today, as of today, the situation is really bleak when it comes to Maharashtra. Maharashtra is on a lockdown from past about a week or so, and it is covered well in media that maybe from tomorrow there's going to be a new announcement which is going to come in, and in all probability maybe it may go down for a severe lockdown for another 8 to 15 days. So in all possibility, it looks like that the holy month of Mahr Ramadan Kareem is already going to be in lockdown. Now, when it comes to our majority of the population in Gujarat, okay, that's the second state where we have more of our centers and our Mumin brothers. So there also, the situation is really very bad. The cases have multiplied phenomenally, and it doesn't look like that for a month or two that our centers would be allowed to function, and it looks bleak. Maybe next 2 months or so it looks bleak, unfortunately.
Sheikhna, your reaction to that, perhaps as a final guidance for the community on, given maybe another lockdown being faced for Shahr Ramadan, a month where we're usually so together, and that vibe of being in the congregation is huge and is so inspirational. How can we, especially given people's mindsets, maybe with Ali Hasnain's mentioning of fear, what's the guidance maybe spiritually that you'd provide to everyone in terms of keeping their mindset high and keeping optimistic?
So being optimistic is the key over here, because it's very easy for a person to get depressed in such situations, lose hope, and at the end, it reaches a point where people starting saying things that later on they regret, in terms of why Allah has chosen me, the questions in regards to the evil, and so on and so forth. So it's very important to be optimistic, to be hopeful, yet be very careful in the situation and the day to observe the health protocols. And let's see, it's on the medical team for now to provide some vaccinations which are actually 100% or close to 100% effective. And what we can do on our behalf as mu'mineen, as believers, is that, look, Islam is a religion of inzar and tabshir, right? Meaning, if you do good, it gives you the rewards, right? Say, for example, help a needy person, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove the bitterness of the day of judgment for you. On the other hand, it also is a religion that has a hard hand as well, right? It also warns you that, look, for example, Surah Al-Ma'un, right? أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells to his messenger, "O messenger, have you seen the people who have denied the hereafter? فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُّ الْيَتِيمِ." One of the reasons for the denial is that they are harsh upon the orphans. When the orphans approach them, they are harsh upon them. They are not kind towards them. وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. And they do not give their food to the poor. right? So one of the reasons for, God forbid, denial of the hereafter is not being harsh upon the orphans and giving to the needy. And then Allah says, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ. So woe be upon such people who are praying, yet they're neglectful of the fact that in order for their prayers to get accepted and in order for their belief to be firm, they need to, at least in this surah, as per this surah, be kind to the orphans, look for them emotionally. Not only it's not money every time. Look out for them emotionally, as well as look after them financially. وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. Inshallah, the remainder of the surah, I'll leave it for our dear viewers to inshallah follow it up from the Quran.
Shaykhna Ahsantum, thank you so much. And at this point, unfortunately, we are out of time. I thank you all, dear Shaykh, Ali Uncle, Brother Sadiq, and Brother Ali Hasnain. May Allah reward you all for your services, your khidmah, and inshallah, your intentions remain sincere and take us all closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dear viewers, thank you for joining us. And a reminder, please do write your letters in our global family at world-federation.org. Join us next week for our time where we'll be joined by East Africa to get another view on this challenge that we are going through as one global family. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Hong Kong health authorities have activated their most serious response level.
The coronavirus has hit the UK.
More than 118,000 cases across 114 countries.
Today, the center is empty.
We had to adapt and adjust for member Jamaats' needs.
Virtual platforms and technology have enabled us.
There was the economic stream, there was a supply stream.
ખાવાનું આપશે તમે કદાચ તમારે રેન્ટ ન ભરી શકતા હો